Hey guys, JV here sharing my companion guide for Porter Gage, the faithful raider companion in Fallout 4. In this video, we'll discuss how to get Porter Gage, what his special stats look like, how to max out his affinity, and the effectiveness of his companion perk. Let's start with some background info on Gage. Before we begin, there will be spoilers about the beginning of the Nuka World DLC pack in this video, so if you haven't started that yet and don't want to be spoiled, you should save this video for after. Porter Gage grew up with his mom and dad in a farming settlement. When he was 12, the small settlement was raided and Gage decided to run away from home instead of watching his parents give in to the raiders' demands. After that point, Gage survived by doing odd jobs in order to gather as many caps as he could. When he started doing mercenary and caravan work, he realized that he wanted to be a raider himself. He joined a group as a 16-year-old after raiders attacked a settlement he was living in at the time. In his first gang, Gage noticed that the raiders had numbers but weren't utilizing them to their full potential. He pointed this out, and instead of being punished, their leader named Connor the Harvester took Gage's advice and hired him as his right-hand man. A full year later, Connor ended up betraying Gage while faking peace negotiations with a nearby gang. Gage survived the firefight and escaped the ambush. Instead of seeking revenge for the betrayal, he moved on and promised himself that he would never trust raiders again. Over the years, Gage was involved with many gangs and managed to escape just before things went bad. He eventually crossed paths with the 3 raider gangs at Nuka World and chose Overboss Coulter to lead them. Gage's many years of experience as the second in command comes in handy when the gangs decide to remove Coulter as Overboss. That's right when the Sole Survivor shows up and when the story picks up in the Nuka World DLC pack. Gage can be found at Fizz Top Mountain in the Fizz Top Grill, which is the restaurant that kind of overlooks Nuka World. Of course, you'll see him and talk to him before that because you must complete Taken for a Ride and an ambitious plan before you can unlock him as a companion. So that involves running through the gauntlet, surviving that, going through the Cola Cars arena, killing Overboss Coulter, and then going around and talking to all of the Raider gang leaders. Of course, the recommended level for Nuka World is level 30, but I believe you can run and get Gage and survive through the gauntlet fairly easily before that point. Overboss Coulter might be a tough fight if you're not at least level 30, but if you can get through that, then you can grab Gage as your companion before level 30. His special stats are 7 strength, 9 perception, 7 endurance, 3 charisma, 6 intelligence, 8 agility, and 7 luck for 47 total points. This is below average compared to most companions in the game, but if you've watched my previous companion guides, you'll know that I don't believe this really affects anything. For example, endurance doesn't actually affect Gage's hit points. When you compare that to another companion's endurance, they may have more or less health with more or less endurance, and so it really doesn't make sense. That's why this is just something interesting to know. Just like every other companion in the game, Gage reacts to player actions, choices, and dialogue. His preferences and whether he likes what the player is doing or not is represented by something called affinity. So imagine an invisible bar out of 1,000. Certain decisions that the Sole Survivor makes will cause that bar to go up or down depending on Gage's preferences. Once you've maxed out that bar, Gage will let you know and grant you his affinity perk. Also, Gage is a romance option for the player. Just a reminder, companions are not particular in their preferences, so it doesn't matter if your Sole Survivor is male or female, Gage will be down. As with all companions, Gage has certain preferences and will respond in a predictable way depending on what you do as the Sole Survivor. He tends to like it when the player is violent, supports anything Nuka World related, picks locks, hacks terminals, steals, or does anything that's generally criminal in nature. He doesn't like it when the player drinks alcohol or uses chems. These preferences are a reminder that Gage is a companion, but he's still a raider. He still likes it when you do raider things, and that's why these generally criminal activities are a like for him. It's also important to note that if you decide to just attack Nuka World instead of help the raiders, which would be a morally good thing to do in my opinion, then Gage will turn on you and start shooting you. That decision will lock him out as a companion, so be sure and keep that in mind before you make that decision. There are ways to boost Gage's companion affinity, and generally speaking, I would let you guys know that it's probably a good idea to complete the Nuka World main storyline. A lot of the dialogue options and decisions that you make along the way will return a gauge like that in the top left corner, and so you'll know that his affinity is increasing while you're doing that storyline and helping the raiders. If you don't want to spend the several hours it takes to actually complete that quest line, then there are a few other options to consider. Once again, Gage likes it when you do things like picking locks, hacking terminals, and stealing, and so I would advise that you go to a populated area in the nighttime and just go to town, steal, pick locks, do all of those criminal things. Diamond City at nighttime is a great place to get that done. There's not a lot of people around if you have high sneak, and of course you will need locksmith or hacker in order to do those specific things, but if you can sneak around, you can steal a lot of things and boost his affinity very quickly. Once you've maximized his affinity, he will give you the Lessons in Blood perk, which is plus 5% experience per kill and plus 10 damage resistance. The bonus experience on kill is nice, but it's important to note that you can't even get Gage until you go to Nuka World. Again, the level recommendation for Nuka World is 30, and unless you're playing on normal or below, it's going to be a little difficult to get in there before that point. I feel like most builds are fairly powerful by level 30, and so investing in a companion perk that gives you bonus experience isn't super useful in my book. But hey, that's just me. If you're trying to get to rank 4 or 5 of your best perk and really trying to complete everything that you can, then this extra XP bump is useful for you. In terms of gear, Gage comes with a decent set of armor and a handmade rifle for his weapon. Honestly, I wouldn't even give Gage another weapon unless you're trying to roleplay or something like that. The handmade rifle is a really awesome default weapon for a companion. And of course, he has unlimited ammo for it, so personally, I wouldn't even touch his gear at all. I would leave him how he is. Overall, I think Gage is a strong companion. I really enjoy the new perspective he gives compared to most of the other raiders that we meet in the game. Sometimes he makes it seem like it's an acceptable way of life, and I really value his input, but then again, he brings you back with the next thing that he does, supporting what you're doing in Nuka World. And once again, he's completely loyal to the sole survivor as long as you don't actively disrupt the raider activities at Nuka World. I'd like to hear from you all in the comment section below. Will you use Gage as your long-term companion, and is his companion perk worth it? Is it worth investing that time to boost it up and get it to 1,000? Share what you're thinking in the comment section below. Alright guys, today I shared everything you need to know about Porter Gage in Fallout 4. Next time we'll cover more Fallout on my channel, so stay tuned for Fallout 4 tips and tricks videos. If you learned something new or just enjoyed this video, remember to hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already for more Fallout 4 and general tips and tricks videos. Talk to you guys next time.